ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our MESAT Bulletin, and we shall start with our headlines. Airstrike hits Mosul Bridge, disrupting IS supply lines. The Egyptian leader voices support for Syrian president's military. And moving on to our details, starting with the fighting in Iraq. An airstrike by US-led coalition on Wednesday disabled the fourth bridge on the Tigris River in Mosul, leaving the northern Iraqi city with a single functioning bridge and further disrupting the Islamic State group's supply lines. An Iraqi official in Mosul reported the airstrike, which took place before dawn. It was the second airstrike to target a Mosul bridge this week, and the fourth since shortly before the October 17th start of the Iraqi government's campaign to retake the city from IS. The airstrike was followed by intense fighting in an eastern Mosul neighborhood where Iraq's special forces are slowly advancing towards the city center. Meanwhile, Egypt's president has expressed support for Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's military. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi said in an interview with the Portuguese TV network RTP that Syrian government forces are best positioned to combat terrorism and restore stability in the war-torn nation. When asked if he would send Egyptian peacekeepers to Syria under a peace deal, President al-Sisi said that it is better that the national army take responsibility and that his priority is to support the National Army of Syria. From another aspect, Egypt last month backed Russian and French draft resolutions on Syria at the UN Security Council. And going to the Indian-Pakistani dispute, artillery fire and shelling from India targeted several Pakistani villages and struck a passenger bus near the dividing line in the disputed region of Kashmir on Wednesday, killing 12 civilians and wounding more than a dozen others. Hours later, Pakistan's military said 3 soldiers, including an army captain, were killed while responding to the Indian attack. It said 7 Indian soldiers were also killed in retaliatory fire, but there was no confirmation on the casualties from India. On the other hand, in India, the army spokesman said an intense exchange of fire was underway between the two sides. And moving on to Turkish EU membership, Turkey's president declared on Wednesday that an upcoming vote in the European Parliament on whether to freeze membership talks with Turkey is of no value to his country. European Union legislators are scheduled to hold a non-binding vote this week on whether Turkey's accession talks should be suspended over the Turkish government's unprecedented crackdown following the failed military coup in July. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's comments came while addressing an annual economy and trade meeting of the Organization for Islamic Cooperation in Istanbul, calling on countries of the organization to stand up to the West. Meanwhile, German Chancellor Angela Merkel said it is important to keep open channels of communication with Turkey, but that can't be an obstacle to criticizing alarming events in the country. She also pushed back anew against accusations by Turkey that Germany harbors wanted Kurdish militants. She said in a speech in Parliament that the German government acts against every form of terrorism and authorities have opened proceedings against alleged PKK members in over 4,000 cases. However, she noted that our state of law reaches verdicts that politicians can't influence, and these verdicts have to be accepted. On another front, German Chancellor Angela Merkel said on Wednesday she is not happy about the possible demise of the Trans-Pacific Partnership trade agreement. Merkel, in a speech to the German parliament, said, "I am not happy that the Trans-Pacific Agreement now will probably not become reality." Merkel also made a wider plea for sticking to a multilateral approach in complicated times, saying, "I say that we should seek common ground, count on multilateralism, and working together with others to shape globalization." On the other side of the world, an intelligence sharing agreement between South Korea and Japan took effect on Wednesday after the countries signed the pact to better monitor North Korea. South Korea's defense minister and Japan's ambassador in Seoul signed the deal on Wednesday, and Seoul's foreign ministry said the pact took effect the same day. Meanwhile, North Korea has reacted angrily, saying the deal would aggravate regional animosities. It's worth mentioning that South Korea and Japan had exchanged military intelligence via the United States under a trilateral agreement signed in 2014, but the Asian neighbors had no direct intelligence sharing system. And moving on to our economic news, the rally in global stock markets, which saw the Dow close above 19,000 for the first time, petered out on Wednesday. Britain's FTSE 100 rose 0.3% to 6,636, while Germany's DAX shed 0.6% to 10,655. France CAC 40 dropped 0.4% to 4,529. On Wall Street, the futures for the Dow Jones Industrial Average and the Standard & Poor's 500 index were both unchanged, a day after the Dow closed above the 19,000 mark for the first time. Moreover, Sydney's S&P ASX 200 rose 1.3% to 5,484.40, while the Shanghai Composite Index shed 0.2% to 3,241.14. And going to our sports news, FIFA says Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas have met with its envoy trying to broker better relations between the two sides' soccer federations. FIFA said its monitoring committee chairman Tokyo Saxwell of South Africa held separate talks in Jerusalem and Ramallah on Monday and Tuesday. This is due to Palestinian soccer leaders want Israel expelled from FIFA over security restrictions on players and opposing teams moving in and out of its territories, plus Israel allowing clubs from settlements to play in its competitions. And finally, FIFA says it has opened disciplinary cases against Northern Ireland and Wales for displaying large poppy emblems across sections of their stadiums before recent World Cup qualifying matches. It follows FIFA charging the English and Scottish federations for war remembrance displays and ceremonies at their November 11th match at Wembley Stadium. It's worth mentioning that Northern Ireland played Azerbaijan in Belfast on November 11th and Wales hosted Serbia in Cardiff the next day, and both federations face being fined. From another aspect, the laws of soccer prohibit religious, political, or personal statements at national team matches. And before ending our news, let's take another look at the most important headlines for today. Airstrike hits Mosul Bridge, disrupting IS supply lines. The Egyptian leader voices support for Syrian president's military. And this was the end of our Newstat Bulletin for today. Thank you for joining us.